Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Saturday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Parish Construction and Roofing. If you need an orthopedic, go to Brock. You need a roof, you call Parish. Unique Physique, uniquephysique.com, Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com, and On Fire Athletes, platform powered by Gamecoin. I get everything set up here today. Hope y'all had a great evening, great start to your Saturday. Short week. I mean, with the snow and everything that came through, most people had a couple days off, if not, really the whole week off. But I was excited to get back at it the past couple of days after taking Tuesday, Wednesday off. So unfortunately, not a great night for the good guys and gals. LSU, the women's basketball team, lost to South Carolina. Game that was close in the first half, and South Carolina really dominated the second half. So Kim Mulkey now 0-5 against South Carolina in her time at LSU. LSU has now lost 17 in a row to South Carolina in women's basketball, which is almost unspeakable. I know Nikki Fargas really ran the program into the tank, and that was at the time South Carolina was ascending. But 17 in a row is hard to fathom. That's like some, Kentucky, Florida football streak, like that got to like 33 years or something like that. That's what that feels like. Anyway, and then gymnastics lost last night at Arkansas as well. Unfortunately, I did not get to watch the meet last night, but not great for the good guys. LSU baseball did open up practice yesterday. Jay Johnson met with the media. It was interesting to hear him kind of preview the team. And then Saints are the last head coaching job available in the NFL as the Cowboys have promoted Brian Schottenheimer. Weird path for Jerry Jones to not retain Mike McCarthy and then promote his offensive coordinators, whatever. So anyway, the Saints have their pick. Like, who do you want? Any candidate that's left, the Saints can hire. There's no more competition. So you don't have to rush anybody to the podium. You want to hire Darren Rizzi, you can. You want to wait for Joe Brady, you can. You want to wait for Cliff Kingsbury, you can. You want to hire Mike McCarthy, you want to hire Anthony Weaver, Mike Kafka. Those are all the names we've heard. You want to go hire Nick Saban? You want to hire Bill Belichick? Pay him $10 million to get out of his North Carolina contract? You can't. So we'll see. There's just I tell you, the thing I want to see is just wait. Just wait. Wait and interview Joe Brady. Wait and interview Cliff Kingsbury. Just wait. Wait until their seasons are over and make your decision. All right, say some good morning, y'all. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Hey, Barry, good morning. Pama is burning, good morning. I think the reason we lost yesterday was the free throw disparity in the turnovers. They had 26 free throws to our 6. Yeah, well, you got to get to the line. Yeah, that's a huge part of it. But when they're more physical and they attack the basket and they draw fouls, they get to the line. Hey, Jeff, good morning. Merrick Mathern, good morning. Sorry. Hey, Thomas, good morning. Shabbat shalom. Chance, Samaya Smith is too careless with the basketball, and Wolfenbarger lacks aggression. Rosario is MIA. You think, you do have some size, but they bullied you yesterday, huh? Who's number one in women's basketball? UCLA. That's the only team actually that beat South Carolina. Matt, good morning. Who do you think's on the mound game 1, February 14th? Yeah, it's a good question, man. Normally it's like we would know that answer. Like last year, we knew that coming off of his appearance in Omaha, that Thatcher Hurd was the guy that many assumed like was going to be the Friday night guy. And so he started the season, and it just didn't work out. Then ultimately Holman and Jump kind of emerged as your 1-2 punch, and and Hurd really struggled to find a role. This year, I don't think it's that cut and dried. There's talk about Kate Anderson. That was a name that Kendall Rogers mentioned. For me, the one that makes the most sense would be Chase Shores to take the ball, uh, opening day. But I don't think that's settled right now. I mean, I think over the next 3 weeks, as they practice and scrimmage, they're gonna determine who they feel has the best command in the not just command of the baseball, but command of the moment, and give that person the opportunity to start. So I mean, you made me if like feet to the fire, had to pick somebody, I would say Chase Shores, but I don't have an extreme degree of confidence in that pick. Hey Rex, Greg, why doesn't Mulkey try zone? Don't know. Thomas, good morning. All right, day 22, Toki Doki. I slept till 9. Hell must have frozen over, or South Louisiana. Tiger Diver, is it Omaha or bust for baseball? I mean, Tiger Diver, it's Omaha or bust for baseball every year. Like, that is the standard at LSU. The question sometimes is whether or not that's a realistic standard, but the truth is in baseball, it's always realistic. I mean, Mississippi State was a 500 team in the SEC the year they won the national title. They got hot and went on a run. Ole Miss was literally the last team in the field. They got hot, went on a run, won the national championship. So that's always the standard, is to be one of those 8 teams playing in Omaha. And this team is very capable. They absolutely have depth on the pitching staff, and they absolutely have enough offense. I mean, we're talking about the outfield yesterday with Terrio in the previews, and he's kind of opining that guys like Larson and Pearson might lose their jobs. And you think about it, man, Larson was great last year as a freshman. Pearson has been a really solid contributor for you for 3 years. But you just look at Jake Brown, you bring in Chris Stanfield from Auburn, Derek Curiel coming in. It might be the most talented outfielder on the team. I mean, you may see guys who have been starters before lose their jobs because you just got more talented dudes ready to take their jobs. So, yeah, I mean, you got enough talent on this baseball team to do it. Hunter, Matt, good morning. Did you see how much cap the Saints have in 27? Are they actually going to have that much, or is that not factoring in restructures? So, yeah, I did. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. That's from I know Scott Shanley put that on Twitter. It got a lot of attention. So that's not factoring in the restructures. That's as of now. So they're going to have to restructure and kick money into future years. So it's going to bring that number down. But the point being that even still, in the next couple of years, when a lot of those really bad contracts start to roll off, you're going to you can fix your cap situation, right? You can get into it, because what's going to happen is the salary cap keeps going up, because the salary cap is determined based on league revenue. So as every year league revenue continues to go up, the salary cap goes up. So like you may have, I would say, it's like the way out of debt. Well, how do you get out of debt? You either stop spending or you make more, right? So that's where the Saints are. It's like, okay, we'll go make more money, which is raising the cap, or you stop spending, which is, stop with the bad contracts and stop kicking the can down the road. Just eat it, be bad, and eventually all that will purge off the books. So I think it's both is what it needs to be. So I mean, they're going to have to restructure contracts to get within cap compliance, but you can, for example, you can eat a giant number on Derek Carr this year and have nothing for him next year. And that's appropriate. Or you can restructure Carr and then kick money down for 2 or 3 more future years. And so then you're still paying off Derek Carr for a few years. It's just, how do you want to handle it? Hey, David, good morning. Randall, I'd buy season tickets again if Mickey hired Cliff Kingsbury. Interesting. Hey, Sean, good morning. Please, Saints, just use a 1 year with Darren Rizzi. Eat this year, get the number 1 pick, target a QB. Yeah, it's easy for you and me to say, Sean. That's been my contention. Like, I would like to see them kind of do what the Raiders just did with Antonio Pierce. They hired their interim. He hung around for a year, and then they sort of let everything reset. They've got a top 10 pick, and now they've got Pete Carroll. And not that dissimilar from what happened at Mississippi State when Mike Leach died. Very different situation, obviously. A man died tragically, but they promoted Zach Arnett to try to keep stuff together for a year. It went very badly, and then ultimately they moved on and they hired Jeff Levy, who's a great offensive coach and needs time to recruit and get things in order there. But had a really rough year one, but likely I think we'll do pretty well there. Hey Kirk, good morning. Big Wade, good morning. My opinion to hang in with a team with 9 or 10 McDonald's All-Americans is not too bad. Your thoughts? Yeah, I don't think that's the goal. I mean, I understand your point. But you really didn't hang in there in the second half. Daniel, good morning. Guess we'll never beat South Carolina. What do you think of our safety play for 2025? Well, it really can't be worse. And you say that, and you're like, well, can it? I mean, Jordan Gilbert's back, and he struggled this year, but keep in mind he played with a broken hand and a bum shoulder. If he's healthy, he's going to be better, right? Like, you're going to play better if you don't have a dislocated shoulder and a broken hand. Okay. Deshaun Spears, a year older, you would presume, with all the experience he got, another year, grow to like he'll be better. How much better? Don't know, but he'll be better. You bring in Marcus Cooley, who is a plug-and-play starter. I mean, that's a better option than Sage Ryan was this year. Although Sage played the best of your safeties, and he wasn't great, but he played the best of your safeties. But DeMarcus Cooley is much higher ceiling guy. You bring in Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech, who likely is going to play corner for you, but if he gets beat out at corner, let's say DJ Pickett, Ashton Stamps, Jakeem Jackson, whatever, he could kick back and play safety for you. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be better, but that's a low bar. You know what I mean? Hey, Carla, good morning. Hopefully men's basketball will be better tonight. Yeah, Carla, they're playing at Alabama. And LSU's record at Coleman Coliseum is atrocious. They just don't win in that building. I want to say they've won at Coleman Coliseum. I want to say it's twice in like the last 30 years. I mean, I know I looked this up last year, but yesterday on AFR, we literally did not even talk at all about this basketball game. Alabama is one of the best teams in the country, and LSU is not. In Tuscaloosa, Alabama is 74-21 all time against LSU in Tuscaloosa. Let's see. The last time LSU won in Tuscaloosa in the 2018-2019 season. That was Will Wade. And then in the 15-16 season. Before that, the last time LSU won in Tuscaloosa was the 304 team. So is that a dozen years? And then the Sweet 16 team in 2000 won there. I mean, and then LSU won there in 94, 95. I mean, you get my point. Like, it's like 5 wins in the last 30 years. I mean, LSU doesn't win there for whatever reason. It's not like Alabama's been this dominant basketball force. For whatever reason, LSU just doesn't win in that building. And on top of it now, you're talking about an Alabama team that is really good. I mean, that's tonight's not going to be competitive. Hey, Tim, good morning. Bama is burning. I feel like we have lull periods in games where we can't find an ounce of offense. That happened in the third quarter yesterday for sure. Michael Tolliver, Saints in prime position of not having to compete with other teams for a head coach. Don't script this hire, please. Yeah, who do y'all want? Tell me. Like who? Like I don't really know that there's a strong consensus among Saints fans with who you want. Hey Patrick, hope y'all are staying warm. Spending the weekend attending a wedding in Orlando. Cold down here too. Wow. I mean, I guess it's cold everywhere right now. Hey Tracy, good morning from Birmingham. All right. Not optimistic about our chance against Bama, but the game is scheduled and all vendors paid. Might as well try to win. Boot up. What's the line? Let me see the line in that game. I'm sure it's double digits. But better if it's not double digits. Hammer Bama. 17.5. Ooh. Abner Neal, good morning. Hey, Charles, good morning. Brett, good morning. Does your scout buddy think the Tigers will win it all in Omaha? So what he's referring to is 2 years ago, I've told y'all the story, but this is what he's referring to. I have a friend that's a big league scout. One of those guys that, like, if I said his name, nobody would know, but like everybody in baseball knows his name. One of those types of things. And after LSU's first practice 2 years ago, the Skeens, Dylan Cruz, that team, he called me and it was like whatever time, like 8 o'clock or whatever. And I knew like that he had to have been like just the time wise, like he had to be leaving the box. Because it was like the first day of practice and whatever. And I picked up the phone and I was like, so we went in the Natty? He goes, yep. He said that was the best collection of talent on a college baseball team he had ever seen. And he was right. So that's what Brett's referring to. Brad, have you changed your opinion on Sirianni with the Eagles having a good year? What do you mean? Have I changed my opinion on Sirianni? I like Sirianni. I think Eagles fans are insane that they like seemingly always want to run this guy out. So I don't know what you're talking about changing my opinion. Like Eagles fans have wanted to run that guy out. Like they won 14 games. They're back a game away from the Super Bowl. Hey Kelly, good morning. Toki Doki, Jake Brown. Too busy doing the hokey pokey. Hope he has a great season. Chef, Jeremy. Hey, Dad, good morning. Mark, Saints final team without an NFL coach. Are we less desired location for candidates than we first realized? I'm sorry, Mark, then who first realized? Because some bald-headed radio hosts have been sitting here telling you the Saints were the least desired spot in the NFL of all the openings. Like, that ain't hard to figure out. You were the least desired spot. Anybody with options wasn't going to pick you. That's why you didn't get Ben Johnson. That's why you didn't get Aaron Glenn. Now, the good news is you weren't trying to hire Pete Carroll. You weren't trying to hire Liam Cohen. You weren't trying to hire Brian Schottenheimer. So a lot of these jobs that got filled with coaches that you weren't trying to hire. So now, of all the ones that you were actually interested in, Brady, Kingsbury, Weaver, McCarthy, Kafka, like all the ones that you were that you've interviewed, like they're all still there. The only one that wasn't is Aaron Glenn, who you would have liked to have hired, but you missed on what was probably your top target because the Jets were a better situation, which is weird to say. Speaks volumes about the Saints when we say the Jets are a better situation, but it's true. LSU gymnastics got screwed last night in Arkansas. I didn't get to see the meet last night, unfortunately. But I did see that they lost. I'm not super worried about it. Adam Penny, good morning. How many guys do LSUJ try at shortstop this year before settles on one player? I mean, I think it's Braswell Milam, and they're going to figure that out. I think Milam's going to end up being a shortstop. So you move Braswell over to third. Milam's probably a little more twitchy, a little more explosive, a little better movement laterally. Braswell settles in at third. I think that's what happens. Dickinson plays second, Jones at first. Sounds like he's going to give both Aaron Beatty and Priester a shot behind the plate. we'll see how that goes. Priester's got a big arm and big power. Aaron Beatty sounds like a big leaguer. I mean, he's the high ceiling guy, but coming in as a freshman, we'll see how he can adapt to to managing a staff as a true freshman. So that'll be fun to watch. If Derek Carr scaring off viable coaches from taking this gig? No. You got a whole bunch of dudes that want the job. Kurt, Matt, going to be out there at the box this weekend? Absolutely not. No chance. Hunt is supposed to be going out there tomorrow, but no, I'm not going to freeze my T. Heine off and watch practice. No. Get Kingsbury, Monken, or Brady. Bailey, seeing Morgan Wallen in Houston. Any great food spots you like there? A lot, as a matter of fact, Bailey. Interesting. I'm not a Morgan Wallen fan. But anyway, where's the concert? Let's see if I can find out where that concert is. Slept crooked. Anyway, you need to go to Lupe Tortilla if you've never been. If you want like authentic Mexican, you need to go to Lupe Tortilla, which is great. And we went to so many restaurants, like little, small top like restaurants in Rice Village. God, I have a list. You know what, Bailey? It's been a minute now. I mean, it was 10 years ago since we lived there, but I had a list of every place we went. So we, Erica, we had to transfer care, so we relocated to Houston. It was the end of May. I think it was May 31st when we moved. May 30th. And Drew wasn't born until July 14th. Because had he been born, they weren't going to be able to get him to Houston. So if he had come early, they weren't going to be able to get him there. Like he was going to need immediate emergent care. So we had to transfer care to Houston, to Texas Children's. So we did. So we had about 6 weeks in Houston where we were there, just me and Erica. And so we tried to do everything we could do to forget about the reason we were there. And so we ate at a lot of different restaurants. We went around the city, checked out the zoo. We went to Topgolf and Katy. I mean, we, tried to get our minds off of why we were there. And so our doctor there, the high risk OB who ended up delivering Drew, Todd Ivy is his name, by the way, shout out, great man. We had to meet Dr. Ivy like a couple times a week all the way through the pregnancy. He was a big foodie, and so he gave us like a running list of places to go in Houston. If you want a steak, I know some people kind of like scoff at Papa's, but because there's so many different Papas, right? There's Papacitos and there's Papados and there's Papa's Barbecue, but Papa's Steakhouse. And there's two. There's one over by the Galleria, but the Papa's downtown is awesome. Food is amazing. One of the best steaks I've ever had in my life. But also, it's like this low ceiling, dark wood, that kind of like old New York kind of vibe to it. Great whiskey selection if you're into that. So that's what I would tell you. If you want to eat Mexican, go to Lupe Tortilla. If you want a steak, and so go to the Papa's. I'm telling you, the Papa's downtown. Because food and ambiance. But if the show is at Toyota Center, which I'm guessing it is, you're close to Papa's downtown, which would be my recommendation if you want a steak. Tiger Diver, any truth to the rumor Aaron Glenn was going to come to NOLA but wanted to pick his GM? I haven't seen that reported but one place, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but I don't know that. Like, for me to believe that, I would have to see that from a credible source or who covers the Saints or covers the NFL. For example, like I would need to see Nick Underhill or Triplett or Jeff Duncan or Schefter or Ian Rappaport. So I'd have to see like that's a pretty big, bold type report. And are there potentially morsels of truth in there? Maybe, but I would have to see that from a source that is known to be well connected within the organization as far as reporting, because they break news all the time. Sorry, I slept crooked, man. Side of my neck is killing me. Hang on, I'm texting Jimmy for his plays today. Right. Please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Oh, you know what? Thomas, I'm sure you're hanging around still. Let me not forget.
Parrish Construction and Roofing. At Parrish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof, all the way down. Parrish Construction and Roofing. Parrish built. Parrish built. Parrish built. From your hometown. ParrishBuilt.com.
All right, Parrish Construction and Roofing. If you need an orthopedist, you go to Brock After Hours Clinic, open nights and weekends. If you need a roof, you call Parrish. Got any issues with your roof after this winter storm, we can help as things thaw out. If you notice you have issues, let us know. We'd love to help you out. Parrish Construction and Roofing. Also, Unique Physique, uniquephysique.com. That's semaglutide, tirzepatide, the once-a-week injections for weight loss. Lowest prices, never any contracts. They actually introduced 3-month pricing as well. So if you buy 3 months at a time, you save $100. Do the whole thing over telemed, and they can ship your medicine anywhere in the country. And then, of course, Restored Motions. God, it's one of those things. If Crystal was open today, I could probably let her go work on my neck. Restored Motions, restoredmotions.com. I think having my arm up like that is making it stiff. All right. What do y'all do whenever, like, if you sleep crooked and you get like a crick in your neck? What do y'all do? Y'all got any remedies, any cure-alls y'all do? Hey, Guy Brooks, good morning. I like the position the Saints are in now for head coach. We don't have to hurry. I mean, I agree. I don't think you ever had to hurry, but yes, I mean, every other job is filled, and Jacksonville with Liam Cohen, the Raiders with Pete Carroll, the Cowboys with Brian Schottenheimer. Those weren't coaches you were pursuing. So every target that you've been pursuing except for Aaron Glenn is available. So take your time, do your interviews, get it right. Jesse Brown, morning, Matt. Is it bad look Saints are the last job available? No, I don't think so at all. I think it just says that they want to talk to Joe Brady and they want to talk to Cliff Kingsbury. Okay, well, if you want to do those in-person interviews, and you got to wait for their seasons to end. So what if the Bills and the Commanders win tomorrow? Well, then you got to wait till after the Super Bowl to be able to hire those guys. Luis Alama, actually, I'll need to check to see if they'd be able to talk to him. If the Bills and Commanders win, I wonder if they could interview those guys I don't know this. If they could interview those guys in person during the bye weeks. You have 2 weeks of the Super Bowl. Hey, club, good morning. Carla, rumor has it Coach O might be going to coach in the NFL, the Raiders. Of course, he coached under Pete Carroll for a long time at USC. If he wants to coach again, he could. But I don't know, man. He's sitting on a big pile of money, back and forth between Baton Rouge and Miami. He's got his place in Destin as well. And one of his sons is coaching in Miami. So as I understand it, every now and again, when he wants a fix, he'll just pop over to practice, But I don't know. I have no idea. Hey, Daniel, let's see. Is Catholic High the new LSU baseball production factory? New? I mean, it has been for years. Do you realize that 2023 was the first LSU baseball national championship that didn't have a Catholic High player on it? I mean, Austin Nola. It'd be good. Austin Nola, Aaron Nola. I mean, you want to go back. Coogan, DeMuy, Tim Lanier. And there's a bajillion, but remember Jason Detterman? There's been Catholic has long been a pipeline to Josh Smith, Chris Shambra. Bailey, it's taking longer for LSU to be great than I thought it would. Is that all Kelly's fault? The NIL is finally in a good place, and he doesn't control that. Personnel has been the issue, right? I mean, I've gone over this a bunch, Bailey. I think there are things that are definitely Brian Kelly's fault. But I think he deserves credit for recognizing a mistake and fixing it instead of doubling down. The one I always talk about is Polian. Hiring Brian Polian as his recruiting coordinator was a giant mistake. Not retaining Corey Raymond was a giant mistake. Those are things that cost them early success, and I think delayed the level of success. And then the other part of it has been figuring out how to manage a roster in the portal NIL era. And do you, like I said before last season, they're trying to, like, LSU with Kelly and Ole Miss with Kiffin had two very different approaches to roster building. Lane Kiffin was the portal king. Brian Kelly was building through the high school ranks and supplementing through the portal. But I think what he realized is it's fine. You could still build through the high school ranks and supplement through the portal, but you have to get higher level portal guys and not just bodies. And I think that's the shift they made this year. But you had to have the money to do it. And they didn't have the money to do it when Brian Kelly got here. But the two big changes that they made, the two big changes were one was TAF merging with Bayou Traditions or taking over fundraising for Bayou Traditions. That was one. And then two was, quite honestly, the Bryce Underwood thing. That really stirred LSU boosters into motion. And to say, like, we lost this guy because of NIL, I think it really motivated a lot of people to get engaged. And as a result, LSU was able to go put together the number one portal class because they had more money to spend than anybody. Maybe not than anybody, but they had tons of money and spent. Whatever happened to Geis in his case? I mean, the case in Virginia got dropped. It was one of those things where the damage was done. So. Brandon, good morning. Ready for baseball season. Carl the Cat, LSU women need to learn to drive to the goal and get fouls. Tony Williams, good morning. Thomas, LSU will win tonight. Tammy and I are heading down to Tuscaloosa. Yeah. Thomas, I would love to see it. And, as they say, it's why they play the game. But, yeah, man. Don't hold your breath, man. Jesse, I like McCarthy or Cliff Kingsbury, not Brady. For whatever it's worth, Jesse, if they do, in fact, hire Cliff Kingsbury, Cliff is with a K. So, that's something that'll bother me. Not your fault, mine. And I'm curious why not Joe Brady. Richie, is Seth Wickersham related to Jeff Wickersham? No idea. Tony, what is the news about Elijah Haven? Yeah, I was looking back at LSU, but he's a 2027 kid. So, Elijah Haven's just in his sophomore year. So he's still got 2 more years of high school. So long way to go on Elijah Haven. But, if you could see a world where Nuss is your quarterback in 25, and then in 26, you have the combination of Michael Van Buren, Colin Hurley, maybe someone else. I mean, there will certainly be someone else in there competing for that job. Then 27, Haven comes in, potentially, if you get him. And hopefully you'd have a veteran ahead of him for a year, and then maybe by 2028, Elijah Haven could be ready to be your guy. See? But yeah, I think they feel good about that. Jesse, I don't get it either. Spoke to Eagles fans, the doom, and hated their head coach. Vexes me better than what we had in NOLA. What's your thoughts on how they'll use Fry? I don't know, man. That was last year. Jay forced at bats for Ethan Fry. Ethan Fry got hurt early in the season as he was coming back from injury. Jay kept trying to get him ABs, and he just kept striking out. I mean, I know we talked about this last year a lot, because and I get it. Jay was giving him ABs and trying to get him going, because you could see the physical ability there, but my goodness, it was a struggle. Like, he had a day against Arkansas where he was like 2 for 4 or something like that. It was Florida. It was Florida. He went in there. Yeah, he had a 2 for 4 day against Florida, and subsequent he went 2 for 4 against Florida. They went 0 for 1, 1 for 2, 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 3. 1 knock against Arkansas. 0 for 1, 0 for 1, 0 for 1, 0 for 4, 0 for 3, 0 for 1. 1 for 2. That was a hit against Grambling. So he went that long stretch without a hit. And he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 strikeouts. I mean, it was just in that stretch that I just detailed. Man, he had Ethan Fry ended up with 57 ABs, and he had 16 strikeouts and 57 ABs. I mean, that's 30%. Striking out, you can't strike out a third of your at bats. I mean, so I don't know, man. Not to say he can't do better, and hope he does grow and do better. But man, if you're talking about, you got Jake Brown out there, you got Ashton Larson, you got Josh Pearson back, you're bringing in Derek Curiel, you got Chris Stanfield, who was a multi-year starter at Auburn, brought him in via the portal. Like, it's just your margin for error shrinks, right? Like, you don't have the opportunity like, it just, when so many guys are out there trying to get ABs and opportunities to play, then if you're striking out, it's hard to justify continuing to feed you ABs, right? So I don't know, man. Stephen Young, good morning. John, I'm an Arkansas transplant. Does Arkansas make the tournament? I'll tell you, look, Boogie Flan getting hurt is not great for Arkansas. He's a 5-star, number 1 player in the country. But I think they had a brutal schedule at the start that does lighten up and I think will give them an opportunity. Like Arkansas is one of those teams that I said, like beginning of the season, like if you look at them in December, January, and then you look at them in April, I think they're a dramatically different team. I think Arkansas actually is a team that can dig themselves out of the hole they're in and play themselves onto the bubble. I do think that. Now it'd be a lot more doable if they had Boogie Fland, but you know. Jody, why can't the Saints get rid of Loomis? Yeah, I mean, Gail Benson has got her soldiers in line. So other reports Saints could trade Carr. Yeah, I don't know that that's a reputable report. It came from one place, and it seemed not like it was about the Giants maybe wanting to trade for Carr. I think it was like a regional ESPN type guy who might have reported that. It's so hard to imagine that because you don't, like I always say, you're not trading just for the player. You're trading for the player and the contract. And I don't know who would trade for that contract for that player at this point in his career. Okay, Bailey, the concerts at NRG. Well, NRG, weird thing about Houston is it's so spread out. So NRG is South Loop, like South Loop 610. And the closest thing probably there would be Papado, which is the seafood restaurant. I guess it just depends on how much you may want to drive and how much you may want to navigate the city. But, I mean, nothing's really close, you know. And that whole NRG park is so massive, but you're not far from South Loop there at NRG. So I mean, Papado's right there. That's probably the closest best thing. But if you want to drive a little bit, I would recommend Lupe Tortilla if you want Mexican, or Papa's Steakhouse, the downtown Papa's Steakhouse if you want to go get a steak. Survivor's Remorse. How do you say you didn't want Aaron Glenn because he was tied to Sean Payton, but you want Joe Brady, although he was coaching under Payton? So I didn't say I want Joe Brady. I don't think that he would be my number one choice. I also think that there's a big difference between Glenn and Brady in this sense. Brady, when he was with New Orleans, was a coffee getter. Like, he was not a guy that was integral in what the New Orleans Saints were doing. He was more the college guy from his time at William and Mary and Penn State under Joe Moorhead. And, I mean, he was like the guy that got the coffee in the laundry with the Saints. It wasn't like he was a coordinator, an impactful position coach, or something like that. And he has been disassociated now from that for so long. And he wasn't there for long to begin with. I think it was 1 year, maybe 2 years. Of course, he went to LSU and then went to Carolina, and now has been in Buffalo. And I think is probably a little more well-traveled. I think it's one of those where even though he was at New Orleans for a brief time, I don't really consider him like under the Sean Payton tree. But I don't completely disagree with that. And I'm also not saying definitively that Joe Brady's my choice. I've told you what I would like to see them do. I would actually like to see them retain Darren Rizzi, cut Derek Carr, bring in Jimmy G or Jacoby Brissett or somebody like that on a 1-year deal. So you have a veteran to go along with the two young guys you have. Complete tank, let all these old players cycle off of your roster. Have a ton of cap space next year, a top 5 pick in a year where it should be a really good quarterback draft class, and then hire your actual head coach. And I mean, basically what the Raiders just did. Club. Shout out to Mr. AJ Nola, Austin Aaron's dad, one of the most genuine, coolest guys. Goes by Tweety. Huh? Good dude, man. They did a great job raising those boys, man. They went into the Grizzly Greats Hall of Fame on Thursday. It was a pleasure to be able to go MC that. H. Willie, morning. Going to the LSU Clemson from bachelor party. Ever been? Never been, man. It was down to there or Ole Miss. I've been to Oxford, but I've not been to Clemson. So I can't help you. Sorry. Randall, Jeff Landry was discussing the prospect of investing in winter resources like snowplows, installing all plumbing underground with new construction. What are your thoughts? I mean, I don't have a great thought on that. I mean, listen, I lived in a place where they did have all that, where they had salt trucks and snow plows and the underground infrastructure, the piping that warmed the streets and the sidewalks so it could melt the ice. I mean, and you needed it because that was your reality every day for half the year. I mean, here, if it's once every 10 years, I don't know. Greg, going to be long 7-8 months until we get to Clemson. Looking to schedule a trip after going to Vegas this year. Surely we beat the opening game losing streak, right? I ain't banking on that. I mean, LSU's the early line has LSU's 2.5-point underdog in that game. So, I hope they win. Of course I do. But brother, at this point, I'm sure not counting on it. Hey, Aaron, good morning. Voted. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thomas, the new Wahlberg movie, not bad. Okay. H. Willie. Okay, sorry, just that one. Gina, please stop playing that horrible song. Absolutely not, Gina. As a matter of fact, since you just did that, guess what's happening? We're playing it again.
Parish Construction and Roofing. At Parish, we've got you covered. From the top of your roof, all the way down. Parish Construction and Roofing. Parish built. Parish built. Parish built. From your hometown. ParishBuilt.com.
Take that, Gina. Gina Bobina. Don't you ever disrespect the Parish Construction and Roofing jingle and Mr. Toby Tom play. Club. A lot of plumbing is underground. We don't get enough snow to have snow plows. I mean, I tend to agree with that. Like, Lupe Tortilla is a must. What do you think about the Liam Cohen Bucks drama? It's kind of interesting, right? I think it's less Bucks drama and more Jaguars drama because he effectively got the guy fired, right? And then took the job. If I understand how that went down. Carl the Cat. Yep, they were awesome, man. It was great to be there. Luch went to Catholic, but Luch did not go to LSU, if that's what you're talking about, drawing that connection. So David DeLucci, he's told that story plenty. Skip didn't recruit him. So went to Ole Miss and ended up becoming the best player in the history of that program at the time, big leaguer, and Skip didn't recruit him. That was a big miss by Skip. I agree with you. I'll give BK a ton of credit for fixing mistakes, being humble enough to change. Airline Drive could use some of that. Rocky, I like Clifford Brady, but to be fair, they had their success with great play. I guess probably players. I'm not sure they'll have that with Saints, at least with what they have on the roster. Like, that's true for whoever takes this job. Like, it's understanding the Saints roster is one of the oldest and worst in the NFL. So whoever takes this job, you are taking on a multi-year rebuild where you will have to get your salary cap in line. You will have to hit on draft picks. And like the other thing that's so disappointing, like I'm looking at the voting for NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and there's Trey Hendrickson and Zach Bond. There's two guys you drafted that are for NFL Defensive Player of the Year for other teams. I mean, that's your inability to manage your roster and your cap. Even though you scouted properly, you drafted those guys, and you weren't able to maximize them. Somebody else did because you couldn't manage your cap and your roster. That's disappointing. Michael Cook, Earl. Only when it will, man. Cortland, find it hilarious. The team could lose 3 Rookie of the Year finalists and fans expected to be better somehow. I mean, look, that was my point all offseason was, I mean, I said this on every interview, every show ever. So I had my take memorized. I'll tell you exactly what it was. So you don't lose the Heisman winner, 2 first-round receivers, and the Broyles Award finalist offensive coordinator and get better. Like, you were going to take a step back offensively. The question is, how much? Because you still had Garrett Nussmeier, you had some really good talent offensively, and so, like, and we all thought it was the best offensive line ever, right? So you were going to take a step back offensively, but we all assumed they'd be better defensively. So the question was, all right, you're going to be not as good offensively, but you're going to be better defensively. Like, what does that gap look like? How far does the offense fall? How better is the defense? They'll tell you what the season was like. And ultimately, it wasn't enough. You were 8-4. Earl, starting rotation for the Tigers. For the opening weekend, I think they go Shores, Anderson, Ianson. Just guess. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't think Jay knows for sure either. May have an idea, but I think that's probably the 3 that you see on opening weekend. Rocky, I think Brady's age contributes to the skepticism. Yeah, I don't think so, man. Just especially in this era of all the young offensive-minded coaches. I think that's kind of actually like an appeal in this era. It was interesting to see Bobby Slowick get fired. Y'all see that? The Texans fired Slowick. I mean, that was a guy that was thought to be a head coaching candidate. I mean, Saints interviewed him last year for their OC job. Stevie Morant is a true Aaron Glenn, one of the Saints to move on from Mickey. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's a singular sourced report, and I haven't heard it from any of like the people that are actually the actual guys covering like the news day to day of the Saints. Like, to believe, like, I would have to see that report from Underhill or Triplett or Jeff Duncan or somebody like that. Schefter. Roy, Josh Pearson isn't any better. It seems like his 10th year. Guy's got almost 500 career at bats, man. He's played a ton of ball. Cause we miss Morris. Gilbert thinks she can win the game by herself all the time, never passes the ball, antiquated offense, all those guards. We think we have Griner, Satter, Biggs are soft. Ivan, South Carolina is our nemesis in women's college basketball. We are not getting any closer to a win. I hope LSU does not play the Gamecocks in the tourney. Maybe UCLA or UConn will help us. Makes sense about Brady. Probably the reason Peyton didn't stop him like he did the D-line coach. Well, that was, you're talking about Ryan Nielsen when Ed tried to hire Ryan Nielsen. That was out of spite because Ed didn't request permission to talk to Nielsen. Ed was going to hire Ryan Nielsen as the LSU defensive coordinator, and Sean Payton blocked the hire, which he was contractually within his rights to do. And then he promoted Nielsen to co-DC. But the reason was because Ed Ogeron didn't request permission first to speak to Nielsen, which you have to do contractually with those NFL coaches. So Peyton was petty, which he's, want to be from time to time. Earl, yeah, there's a pitching clock again. No, it's 22 and a half. Taz, should the Saints try to trade for Joe Milton? No, I don't want to give up any assets for a maybe. Yeah, I guess the right answer is, what would it cost you? But why would you do that? Like, do you think Joe Milton's your franchise? I don't. So what are you doing giving up an asset to go get another young backup, maybe type quarterback? Like, go build your roster and next year draft your franchise. Justin, do you think Jack Besh can be similar to Brandon Stokely? Oh, I think Jack Besh is a much different receiver than Stokely. Stokely's a really good receiver. Please don't misunderstand. Played in the NFL for a long time, but Stokely was 6 foot 194. Jack Bech is 6'2", 215. I mean, very, very different. Bech is a much bigger bodied receiver and has great speed. I feel bad for Jack coming off look, the personal thing with his brother notwithstanding, obviously, I think that bears mentioning. But if you didn't, Jack tore his ACL this season, was having an awesome season. I think he might have had 1,000-yard season. Like going to TCU, 62 catches for 1,034 yards and 9 touchdowns. It was a great year for Jack. Going to TCU was a great decision for him. And you could say, like, man, I know people have said, like, why did Jack Bech leave? He went TCU, ended up being a 1,000-yard receiver. Like, okay. Who would you have rather not thrown the ball to last year, Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas, to get Jack Bech targets? You get my point? Like, he was behind those two guys. It was the right decision, man. He went to a place where he got to be featured, which he wasn't going to happen here because of who was ahead of him. It's not that he wasn't good. It was, look at who was ahead of him. Oh, the two guys that are both up for Rookie of the Year. They both had 1,000 yards in their rookie NFL seasons. So now I wish Jack well, man. I think he'll be a great NFL receiver. If Loomis continues as Saints GM, no coach in his right mind will take the job. That's not true. Kirk, Brady would have to be the logical choice, going, you're going to suck for the next 5 years. I don't think you're going to suck for the next 5 years. Like, that's not, look at the Commanders are the case in point. And you could say it's an outlier, but this is a reality. It was true last year for the Houston Texans. If you get the right coach and quarterback, you can turn it around quickly. The Texans did it in 1 year with C.J. Stroud. The Commanders just did it in 1 year with Jaden Daniels. So the Bengals with Joe Burrow did it. They drafted Burrow, and they went from the number one pick to, I think they won four games that year, and Burrow hurt his knee in October. But and then the next year they're in the Super Bowl. The point is, like, it don't have to be a 5. Like, that's the thing about the NFL. The NFL has built-in structure to allow for parity. The first are last and the last are first. That's how the draft works. So you get to draft the best players to try to make your team better. So I don't think it's a 5-year rebuild. It doesn't have to be a 5-year rebuild. What I do know is next year you're not going to be any good. Like, that's for certain. And the way that they've approached this the last 5 years has delayed their ability to move on, undeniably. They've chosen, in thinking they were competing, in actuality, what they did was just cement themselves into this perpetual state of mediocrity, this 7-9, 8-8 reality. Well, I guess 7-10, 8-9. You know what I mean? But what I know for certain is they're not going to be any good next year. There isn't a path for them to be good next year. It would have to be like you draft a quarterback in round 3 that ends up being Jaden. You know what I mean? Like, and you could say, well, look at Brock Purdy, as a rookie. And that's true, but I would also argue that was the best. That was the best roster overall in the NFL. So you're going to be bad next year. You're going to be bad. Like, we all have to accept the fact that whoever they hire as a coach, whatever they do, like, you're going to be bad in 2025. But in 2026, you can be good. Like, you can be a playoff team in 2026. There's no reason why the Saints in 26 couldn't be what Washington was this year, Houston was last year, if you get the right coach and quarterback combo. Now, will they do that? I don't know, but can you do that? Yes. And I would actually argue you can't think of it in terms of a 5-year build because all those guys on rookie contracts would be, in theory, gone by 5 years because rookie deals are 4-year contracts outside of first-round picks. Gregory Gordy, good morning. Ryan Williams, what are the odds you give Rizzy getting the job? Nothing would surprise me with the clown show and airline drive. I think if nobody blows him away and he's got the support of the players, they could hire Rizzy. But again, like I wouldn't be opposed to like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to Rizzy as a 1-year deal. Not that you'd hire him for like give him a 1-year contract, but just like what just happened with Antonio Pierce. Can we stop the skies falling stuff with the Saints in regards to the head coach job? We know the roster has to get better regardless of the head coach. Yeah, I mean, I don't look at, by the way, just to be clear, I don't look at the Saints, because I said this a bit ago, but for those who maybe just jumped aboard, and thank you, please smash the like button on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. I don't think at all that the Saints being the only job left open is a bad look or anything. I think it just tells you they're waiting on the guys that they want to talk to, which I think actually shows great patience. Like, there's no reason to rush. If you want to talk to Brady and Kingsbury, wait for their seasons to end so you can talk to them. Like, I think there's no. This week is the Senior Bowl. You can still send your staff and your scouts and Ireland and Loomis. They can all go to the Senior Bowl this week. And everybody in the NFL is plugged into that event anyway. And the league year doesn't begin until March. So, like, you're for free agency stuff. So you're going to have made your hire by then. Then draft isn't until April. So, like, there's no reason. Like, there's no reason to rush. If you want to talk to Brady and Kingsbury, wait. Wait for their seasons to end. Even if it's 2 weeks for the Super Bowl, wait, and then make your decision. There's just no reason to rush. There's no reason to be in a hurry. Mike McCarthy ain't going nowhere. Anthony Weaver ain't going nowhere. Mike Kafka ain't going nowhere. There's no other jobs. So take your time. Talk to who you want to talk to. Wish Griffin Herring would have stayed one more season with the Tigers. Boy, it was good last year, huh? Gulf South, good morning. I'm sure you noticed, but isn't it a great feeling to see 2 former Saints players who Loomis let walk be nominated for defensive player? I actually just mentioned that. I don't know if you heard, I just mentioned that. Hey, Blown Coverage, good morning. Can they suck for 5 years? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There are teams that suck for decades. But my point is, you're not guaranteed to suck in like a 5-year rebuild. It's not like in college pre-portal NIL where if you took over a terrible situation with a decimated roster, it was going to take 2 and 3 and 4 recruiting classes to build your roster back to be able to compete. Joseph, good morning from the gym. Cortland, I think Clemson is just the university. Yeah, I don't know what else is there. I've never been. I've been to Columbia, which is a great town, by the way. I really enjoyed. I went to Columbia. I mean, LSU doesn't play there often, but I went there. It's been a long time. I went there in 2003 when LSU played up there in 2003. Lou Holtz was the coach, and LSU just curb stomped him. I think South Carolina had like 50 yards of offense in the game. I mean, it was an oppressive day for the LSU defense. I mean, they were awesome. But I really enjoyed Columbia. That was a really fun trip. But I've never been to Clemson. Sorry, I read that one. Gulf South, I could be very wrong. I'd assume Houston and Washington had much better cap space to help them rebuild versus where the Saints are. So drawing the comparison between with quarterbacks, but their rosters were atrocious. And I can't remember. So I mean, here's who the Commanders added. They added Austin Eckler, 2-year, $11 million deal, so nothing massive, for an okay NFL running back. Bobby Wagner, who at one point in his career was awesome, but is old now. 1-year deal, $8.5 million, very similar to the deal like the Saints did with Chase Young. Marcus Mariota is their backup. Zach Ertz, 1 year, $5 million. Again, a guy who at one point in his career was really good, hasn't been of late. 1 year, $5 million deal. Like, it's just a 1 year prove it deal. They added Dante Fowler. They added Frankie Louvu, Tyler Biadasz, center, 3-year deal. Cornelius Lucas, F.A. Obata, Jeremy Chin, Dorrance Armstrong. They signed Cleveland Farrell, who was a former first-round draft pick, but really has been a disappointing NFL player. Michael Davis, Jeremy Reeves, Brandon McManus, the kicker, 1 year deal. See, I mean, dude, they went and did a whole bunch of 1 year deals with 1 year, low level, prove it type deals. I mean, Jamison Crowder, 1 year deal. And he was their free agent, by the way. See my point? Like, brother, it ain't like they went out and went ham. I mean, the notable players they signed were guys that were old veteran players, well past their prime, like Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner, who've had good seasons, absolutely had good seasons, but dudes well past their prime on 1 year prove it deals. So, and the other point is, I mean, the difference is you got Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is incredible. Anyway. And the Saints have an opportunity over the next 2 years to reset their cap. So, like, they're going to have to go do the whole restructure thing this year to get within cap compliance, but they don't have to be obscene about it. And they can get closer to even for next year. So you're not having to do $70 million in restructures to get within cap compliance because the cap's going to keep going up. Texans did that with Lovie Smith. Yeah, when they knew they were tanking. Yes, they did. And it landed them CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. And now they're a playoff team in back-to-back years. Ivan, do we have enough money being allocated for men's basketball? No. So the number that I was told for like Auburn, for example, I think the number I was told was Auburn has about 10 million in this roster. Basketball. Bama, Kentucky, around like 8 million. And LSU is in the 2.5 million, which, as I understand it, is actually double the amount they spent a year ago. So it's the real disappointing part where, like, you did dramatically increase your investment in basketball this year in NIL. You doubled your investment. But you're nowhere close to being competitive. So, you know, how good do you want to be? I mean, it's just Auburn. Auburn's not a great basketball program historically. That's not Charles Barkley. What has Auburn ever done in basketball? But they built a new arena. They hired Bruce Pearl. And they've invested a ton of money in NIL. And guess what? They're the number one team in the country. Okay. So, like, you want to be great? You can be great. You just got to decide if you want to be great. If LSU wants to keep playing a 50-year-old building that looks like a spaceship and going bargain basement on the roster, this is what you're going to be. LSU wanted to be great in baseball. Guess what? They're great in baseball. LSU wanted to be great in gymnastics. They hired Jay Clark. They built a gymnastics facility. They got NIL to go recruit and retain the best gymnasts. Guess what? They won a national championship. If you want to be great, they'll be great because they'll invest in it. They just don't want to be great in basketball. Let's see. So Cortland said Washington's top 2 in cap space. We're talking about last year. I don't know what they were last year. Talking about last offseason. And a part of the reason why you are, Cortland, is the reason why I have been saying for the last 5 years since Drew Brees has been gone to draft a quarterback every year. Because if you have a starting quarterback on a rookie contract, it really helps reset your cap because you're not paying a quarterback an absurd quarterback contract, like signing Derek Carr to a $150 million contract with $100 million of it guaranteed. You want to know what helps? Having a quarterback on a rookie deal. It's why whenever Seattle had that amazing roster when they won a Super Bowl and went to back-to-back Super Bowls, they had Russell Wilson on a third-round rookie deal. And guess what? When they had to pay Russ and everybody's contracts came due, they couldn't pay everybody. You couldn't pay Richard Sherman and Earl Thomas and Brandon Browner, but the defensive end from Texas A&M who wore the itty-bitty shoulder pads, whose name I'm blanking on right now. I can picture his face. I can't remember his name. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And you had Marshawn Lynch. Well, guess what? You couldn't retain everybody. But when you had your rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, yeah, it helps. Trivia, what's up? Torque, Lewis, Saints should give Joe Lombardi a shot. I don't know if that's in the cards. Loomis says stop missing on personnel moves, stop with maxing out the cap. Bring Ryan Nielsen back. LSU women starting to feel like LSU Alabama. Hype the game and lose. God, dog. Geez, 8 to 10 million in basketball. That's how much a lot of big name football teams have in NIL. If it works, it works, I guess. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what do you want to be? Do you want to be great in those sports? I mean, the number I was told that I don't care. I'll tell you. LSU this year spent. Wait, hang on. I want to make sure my number's right. I'm trying to see. Well, I need to go back. I don't want to say a number because I know there's a number in my head and I can't remember if it now because it's been a minute since I've had to do this. If it was the 2024 or 2023 football season with what LSU spent, but it was under 8 million. I can't remember if it was 23 or 24, but they were going up dramatically. I think it was this 24 season. Do you think they teach us how to run when the opportunity presents itself? Fan narratives are hilarious to me. Like, it's the same thing about why won't Jaden Daniels throw an interception? Why won't Nussmeier run? I don't know, man. Like, I kind of rather him sit there and let a defense or let his receivers go through his progressions and see if something opens up and throw it 20 yards downfield. But there's times where he has to run. He did it in the bowl game. You know, there's times. Did it late in the season. I'm not saying never run. But I also don't want Garrett Nussmeier running. Good morning. Is Loomis fired? Is Carr traded? No, unfortunately. I highly doubt you find a guy like Jaden who can carry the team in the third round. Yeah. Because the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in round 2. The Seahawks drafted Russ in round 3. Cowboys drafted Dak in round 4. The Redskins drafted Kirk Cousins in round 5. Brady was round 6, as we all know. Purdy was round 7. Yeah, you can't find starting quarterbacks outside of the second overall pick. Lamar Jackson was the last pick of the first round. Yeah. You know the surest way not to do it, Cortland? You don't try. And the point that I have made and will continue to make forever is if you, meaning the Saints, are unwilling to take a quarterback in round 1, which they've done one time in their history. It's been well documented. Archie Manning is the only quarterback the Saints have ever taken in the first round in their entire 50, 67. I'm so bad at math. 57-year history. Did I do that right? If you've done it one time ever, there's no reason to believe you're going to do it. So then you have to keep taking Spencer Rattler in the 5th round. You have to keep taking Jake Haener in the 4th round. You have to keep taking a quarterback every year until you hit on one. What game do you consider most important for LSU this coming season? Probably at Ole Miss. Because I think you'll beat South Carolina and Florida in Baton Rouge. And A&M for whatever it's worth. It's your road league games that you got to keep an eye on. And so it's Ole Miss, Bama, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma are your 4 road league games. I think you'll win at Vanderbilt, and I don't think Oklahoma's going to be very good either. More turnover at quarterback. I know they're bringing in the transfer, but look, they jumped up and bit Alabama last year. Similar spot in the schedule. But I think if you lose to Clemson at the beginning of the season, that means you only have one conference game to play with. Because if you got to get to 10-2, right? It means you got one, unless if you end up going to the SC championship game and winning it. But you got one conference game really to play with. And so it means you got to win your home games, which I think you will. But it means you'd also have to go 3-1 on the road. And you don't want to lose. You don't want to potentially lose to Clemson and then Ole Miss early, having to run the table, knowing you've still got trips to Alabama and to Oklahoma on the docket. So I think our early season game against Ole Miss, well, not that early, but still, I think that's probably the one. Time to reheat my coffee for the 5th time and get moving. Have a good one, Matt. Hope it's all right in the 225. Thanks, man. We should have drafted Lamar Jackson instead of the guy with the missing finger. The guy with the missing finger. Y'all crazy. Yeah, I think Stat Dub's the one the other day that was saying Clemson was the must win. I don't know. Somebody was saying that the other day. I fundamentally disagree with it. It's literally not a must win. Bill, Clemson's most important, sets the trend for the rest of the year. It's not, because as the playoff has shown, you can be guaranteed you get a guaranteed spot if you win your conference. So Clemson is decidedly not the most important game, because you can lose to Clemson and potentially be 6-2 in the league and still get to the SEC championship game, win it, and get in. So no, actually, Clemson is not the most important. I mean, we want to see that season opening streak end, of course, but it's not. It's literally not the most important game. I always find it funny when Lamar talks about remembering each team that passed on him in the draft and who was drafted before him because the Ravens passed on him with their first pick too. Did they trade back in to get Lamar? I'm trying to remember how that played out. Because that was after the 17 season. And that was it was the 2018 draft, right? I'm trying to remember the 2018 NFL draft. Let's see. They took Hayden Hurst. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, Hayden Hurst is a good player, or has been. But I don't mean to be disrespectful of Hayden Hurst. But they took Hayden Hurst 25th. Just when you compare Hayden Hurst to Lamar Jackson, I guess is the point. Oh my God. And Lamar went third. So they traded back in. Because that was the year. So Philly, that was the Philly special year when the 2017 season, when the Eagles beat the Patriots. So the Eagles would have had the 32nd pick. So the Eagles traded out of the pick, I guess. I don't remember. That's interesting, Golf Side. I'd forgotten that. I mean, obviously I know that Baltimore didn't win the Super Bowl, but I'd forgotten it was Philly that whatever happened there. Can't go 6 in a row, but you can. You literally can go 6 in a row. You literally can lose to Clemson and win the rest of your games, or go 7-1 in the league and go 10-2 and get in. So you literally can. Cloud Zach, thoughts on Cade Anderson possibly being a frontline guy? He looked awesome yesterday. That's good to know. So if you went to I didn't go to practice yesterday. I was on air, but I'm really hopeful, man. The thing about Anderson last year is the command was the thing last year that was so impressive, but he just couldn't get SEC hitters out. He was so good in the midweek and the pre-conference, and it was like, okay, well, you have to make a decision. I remember talking about this a lot last year. They ultimately had to make a decision where do you let him keep starting in the midweek, or do you try to use him out of the bullpen in conference play to get something out of him on your SEC weekends? And they tried to get him SEC innings, and he just couldn't get SEC hitters out consistently. So would love to see him take that big leap this year. That'd be great. Because he could absolutely be a frontline guy. From the left side, that'd be amazing. Matt, I figured who the offensive tackle was, had a solid commit. I did not ever get the offensive tackle. Gulf South said the DB. The DB I found out was a safety from Penn State who decided not to enter the portal. So there was a Penn State safety that entered. That was not him. It was the guy that they were who was shopping, or his agent or whatever was shopping, stayed at Penn State, which is why going after Tamarcus Cooley and being aggressive with the guys that were in the portal was still a must, because that's learning your lesson from a year ago, right? A year ago, you got left holding the bag with Wingo and Mason Smith. You thought those guys were going to come back. You had big NIL offers for them. They left. You missed the first portal window. So you had, I told you, they had a $500,000 offer each for both of them. So they had $1 million to spend. And And they went into the spring portal window desperate. And Dominic Williams, the kid from TCU who went to Oklahoma, wanted 1.2, and they told him no. They had the money, but they were paying Will Campbell $500K, and they were like, we can't pay you double what we're paying our 3-year starter at left tackle. And so they only got JVR Suggs. The interesting thing about this year is there really isn't a sacred cow. Like, there's nobody on this year's roster that you could look at and say, we can't justify paying portal player X more than guy returning on the roster Y. You know what I mean? So, anyway. Projected stat line would be a successful season from Nuss. I mean, he just threw for 4,000 yards. It was only the second 4,000-yard season in LSU history. Just replicate what he did this year. Cut down on the picks. When does spring practice start for football? They haven't announced the dates yet. Bubba, after the Louisville Bowl game, I was convinced Jackson would be the next version of RG3. I mean, first of all, Lamar Jackson is a far more dynamic runner than RG3 ever was. People forget, like, RG3 at Baylor didn't run the ball a ton. Like, that wasn't... Like, go look at his stats from that season. Was that 11? Was the year Tyron was a finalist, right? Dang it. Dang it, Bobby. Here you go. He ran for... In 2011, he ran for 699, averaged 3.9 yards a carry. Not bad. It wasn't like it was he was ineffective, but he wasn't. I mean, Lamar, by comparison, oops. I mean, Lamar was a 1,000-yard rusher. Lamar ran for 1,600 yards. So as a sophomore, when he won the Heisman, he ran for 1,571. Then as a junior, he ran for 1,601. So as a freshman, he played as a true freshman and ran for 960. So, I mean, Lamar more than doubled RG3's rushing total in college. The thing is that LSU defense in 2016, bro. I've run through it all the time, man. I've done it for years because people who talk about Ed inheriting a bad situation, I say, no. Ed Ogeron inherited an NFL roster. That defense, that 2016 defense, had Arden Key, Devon Gottschall, Lewis Neal, who had a great year that year. But Arden Key, Devon Gottschall, Kendall Beckwith, Duke Riley, Deion Jones, Tre'Davious White, Dante Jackson, Jamal Adams, John Battle was the other safety. But anyway, like, that was an NFL defense. And Les lost to Wisconsin. So, did you see Breeze on Colbert? I didn't know. I saw a clip of him doing like a play call. I didn't know that was from last night. How about delusional Eagle fans? You think Hurts better than Jaden? Yeah, that's not true. I wish LSU special teams rosters were listed somewhere next season. It's always just offensive starters, defensive starters. I mean, like, what do you? I'm curious who the long snapper will be. I'm guessing Grant Chadwick's going to come in and win the punting job. Ramos is back. Burrell's back. I mean, everything else feels kind of the same. Okay. Tom DeMay said, good luck with BK, Matt. 8-4 at best. LMFAO. Probably a Notre Dame fan. I'm going to go ahead and guess Tom's a Notre Dame guy. Congratulations on getting your head kicked in another championship game because you are the problem. Is an opposing team's collective booster talking to a player's agents or parents or best friends about a potential NIL offer 100% legal? Yeah. Tampering would be that you can't talk to a staff member, can't talk to a player who is on a current roster. You can only talk to that player when they're in the portal. But there's nothing to prevent a agent, a family member, whatever, from talking to another. Like, let's say, I mean, Gulf South, just as an example, the collective, right? The collective does not have an official relationship with LSU. So, like, I'll hypothetically, okay. So, the Bayou Traditions hired Jared Wilson to be the president of the collective. Jared works for Bayou Traditions, not for LSU. So, if Jared, who works for Bayou Traditions, is having a conversation with an agent who represents the player, nobody officially representing LSU is talking to the player, to the agent. You have two independent entities discussing. Now, clearly, Bayou Traditions is going to be talking to the LSU staff about who they want, priority player, all that sort of stuff. But what would be illegal is a staff member, like on a school staff, talking to a player currently on another roster. Yeah. Well, yeah, 30 yards. Well, part of them shutting him down, Bubba, that day was the fact that you had a full I mean, you had an NFL defense going against a college offense. And even though Lamar was awesome, that offensive line could do nothing. I think part of his rushing total that day, too, is the fact that LSU sacked him, I think, 6 times. Scone, any rumors about who they're looking at to finish the football staff? No. What I did find out, and I did get confirmed, is the special teams guy that they hired is going to be an analyst. So he's not going to be the 10th on full-time. They are going to hire a full-time on-field staffer, which I assume is going to be the tight ends coach. But I've not heard a name. And I've asked. I have not heard a name. So, Wendell, good morning. But that I did get that confirmed this week, which is that the guy, Amon Anan, who they hired from Grambling, the special teams guy, he is going to be an analyst, not he's got to clear, like, because he's a state employee, so you got to clear background checks and all that stuff. But they're hiring him as an analyst. Wendell, good morning. Tom, Edo inherited a great roster, won a championship. BK would have went 10-2. He would have gone 10-2 at that roster, Tom. Maybe you're not a Notre Dame guy. Yeah, the whole can't be. That's definitely a Notre Dame guy. Poor fella. The whole Brian Kelly can't win the big one narrative. I mean, that really gets blown up whenever Marcus Freeman goes and gets annihilated by Ohio State, right? Like it's such an this at this point it's tired because I've talked about this for so long now, and you all understand it, and you've got enough evidence of it. Like, the problem Notre Dame has is a Notre Dame problem, and I don't know if they'll ever fix it. I don't really care if they ever fix it, but you're seeing the evidence and the sample size grow, which suggests to you exactly what I've said now forever, which is the problem Notre Dame has is Notre Dame fancies themselves as like the people who go to school there. They love it. It's a small community. I believe there's it's 10,000 undergraduate. It was 8,000 the year I lived up there. But They live in their bubble. They think it's perfect. If you're in, you're in. If you're not in, you're out. And so it's a mindset is to say, well, the problem can't be us. I mean, you heard Brady Quinn's comments. It can't be us. It must be you. But when you go 40 years and you don't win, like, no, it's you. It's you. Coach O had Burrow calling plays a lot. I'm not sure Coach O knew what day it was. Steve Ensminger was pretty great. Cortland. Let's see. Stanley, good morning. Are we just lucky how this coaching is going? Or Mickey? Are we just lucky how this coach? No, yeah, I think they're being patient. I mean, if you want to talk, if Joe Brady and Cliff Kingsbury are on your list, there's no sense in rushing. Oh yeah. So y'all are going after the Notre Dame guy. He just doesn't know any better. Bless his heart. Joseph, good morning. I'm very think about it. Like Brian Kelly left them. When was it? 3 years ago. It was just finished his third season in Baton Rouge, and they, despite the fact that they just made a playoff, which by the way, Tom, Notre Dame would not have made a 4-team playoff this year. The only reason they were in is because the playoff expanded, by the way. Brian Kelly got you into 2 4-team playoffs and a BCS championship game. Oh, yeah. See, look, here you go. He's using first person now. Our whole team was upperclassmen. So, see, he's a Notre Dame guy, clearly. That's hilarious. And Tom, Notre Dame did kick your heads in. You gave up 31 unanswered, and then they were playing with their food. Yeah, I'm almost done. If he wakes up, I'll get him. Yeah, for sure. I was just leaving that close so I didn't bother you. Yeah, no, he's. Okay. I think it's funny how many people here snuffed out Tom as a Notre Dame guy instantly. All right, please smash the like button if you would. Subscribe to the channel. Facebook, like the page, share the post. Here you go. Notre Dame doesn't have a problem. Like, it's so Tom, I'll speak to you. Tom, I'm curious. Like, are you just a fan, or like, did you go to Notre Dame, or what? Like, what's your background there? So, and it's funny because you're doing exactly what I've said Notre Dame people do. So for what it's worth, I lived in South Bend for a year, went to school at Holy Cross. My brother went to Notre Dame. He's got 2 degrees from there. I actually just took a job at Notre Dame, so he's moving there in May. Okay, so this makes sense. So Tom didn't. He's just a fan. Went to UNC Charlotte. Okay. So this is what you don't understand. As a fan, I'm not talking down. I'm explaining. And you can choose to believe this or not. You can say what you want. So for much of its football history, Notre Dame had certain built-in advantages because it had great history and tradition, and because particularly they had the NBC contract. They were on TV every week, when that was not the case, as we know. I mean, LSU had Tiger Vision, where you had a lot of games were pay-per-view up until the middle 90s. So because Notre Dame was on TV every week, there was a few select programs that had those built-in advantages for recruiting. Notre Dame was one of them. USC was one of them. Texas, Ohio State, you know the names. Well, what's happened is with every game being on TV now, Notre Dame no longer has that advantage of telling a recruit, hey, come to Notre Dame and you'll be on TV, because everybody's on TV. On top of that, the state of Indiana doesn't produce talent. So to recruit, you have to recruit nationally. Like, you've got to go get on a plane and fly to go see the best recruits in the country. Like, if you look at Louisiana, for example, for the 2026 class, there are 6 players in the top 80 in the country within an hour of LSU's campus. 6 in the top 80 nationally within an hour of either in the Baton Rouge area or the New Orleans area. The highest ranked player in Indiana, the highest ranked player for 2026 in the state of Indiana is Casimir Hicks, who is not even ranked nationally. He's a 3-star that doesn't even have a national ranking. Like, so you got to get on a plane and go recruit nationally. So, Tom, talk less, listen more. Okay. Talk less, listen more. And I don't care if you say all Notre Dame fans understand that. You clearly don't, because you're still continuing to fight back here, because this is the problem that Brian Kelly understood and why he ultimately left. Until Notre Dame is willing to lessen its academic admission standards, which they may never do, they will never be able to put together a roster 1 to 85 good enough to compete with the teams that are going spending, like Ohio State, $20 million on a roster that's built of NFL talent. Like, Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman did a very good job this year. I think he's a good coach. And that was a team that played hard and was really good. If you go look at like Kuiper's big board for this year's draft, the top 10 at each position, there's 3 players that Kuiper had on that entire roster ranked in the top 10 in their position. The highest, I think, was the safety that was like 5th or something like that. Maybe the tight end. I don't remember. The point is, Notre Dame cannot build a roster good enough to compete at the highest level. You can have a good coach, you can have a good roster, but eventually you're going to run into one of those teams like Brian Kelly did when he ran into NFL rosters from Alabama and Clemson. And what he just did with what Freeman just did with Ohio State doesn't mean Marcus Freeman's a bad coach. It just means you don't have a good enough roster to compete. And you never will. So until Notre Dame, that's Rich. You don't get it. Freshmen are our best players. Cool. Because as we're all learning right now, you go recruit freshmen, which is great, by the way. LSU's just signed back-to-back top 10 classes, and Bama signed a top 5 class last year. And how did that go? Because every year, a quarter of your roster goes into the portal. So all those guys, if you're trying to build through your high school ranks, which is great, so Brian Kelly's trying to do as well, you're going to lose half of them every year. So you've got to be willing to spend in the portal and go get elite portal talent as well to supplement your roster, which you're not doing. And it's funny that you say the team was blown out by Ohio State with underclassmen. Your quarterback's gone. Your best defensive players are gone. You're losing 4 starters on the offensive line. That's fine. Tom, listen, man. I'm trying to be sensible, but you're a guy who is the quintessential example of exactly what I've talked about for a long time, but certainly for the 3 years since Brian Kelly's been in Baton Rouge. Notre Dame people are not used to having people leave them. They're not used to being told you're not good. And they'll never acknowledge. And the hard thing, too, is like, God bless a guy like Tom doesn't really understand. He went to UNC Charlotte and he's a Notre Dame fan, so he's never seen a championship team, like what it looks like. Like, if you're an LSU fan, you've watched LSU win 3 national titles since 2003 and play for a 4th. And so, and you got to look at Alabama. Like, you know what it looks like. You know what the bar is. Notre Dame doesn't know that. Like, it's the Gipper and Newt Rockne don't mean anything in this era of college football. So, you know, a poor fellow like Tom just doesn't understand. And like, none of them do, because they don't know what a championship roster looks like. So, and I don't really care. But every argument that people like Tom would make, poor Tom, just doesn't understand. But every argument that people like Tom would make about Brian Kelly, couldn't win the big one, lazy recruiter, all that stuff. What do we say about Marcus Freeman now? Gets in the big one and gets pummeled. And if, said it before, you got 2 eyes in your face and air in your lungs. You watch that game. You watched Ohio State score 31 unanswered and pile drive that team into the ground until they played with their food and Emeka Ibuka fumbled and whatever. Fine. We all watched the game. We know what happened. That's Notre Dame's reality. And that will continue to be Notre Dame's reality until they decide it won't be. Similar to LSU in basketball. Like, if you want to spend $2 million on a roster when other teams are spending 8 and 10, you're going to get that result. So Notre Dame, you have some good players, and Marcus Freeman's a good coach, and you win some games. You'll also lose to Northern Illinois on occasion, and Marshall. Yeah. But that whole conversation about with Notre Dame and everything is just over. Like, they are what they are. It's what they're going to be. They'll win some games, and that'll be nice. But they'll continue to get, if they continue to get to the playoff and all, they'll ultimately run up against teams like that, and the same result. But it's even funnier because they fail to acknowledge that Brian Kelly got them to heights nobody could for 20 years and kept bumping up against their own self-imposed glass ceiling. And they blame Kelly instead of the ceiling. And now they're still blaming Kelly instead of blaming Freeman. Incredibly awful double standard. But again, that's their problem that I don't really care about. They just proved again why they're going to continue to be irrelevant nationally. Oh, God bless. Tom's still commenting. Poor fella. It's 11 a.m. Central. Oh, he's in Charlotte. Or he went to Charlotte. So it's noon on a Saturday, and all he can do is jump in our conversation here and just spam the chat because he's too small-minded and insecure to just go about his day. God bless you, Tom. Let's see. Yeah. He's dead. Stop. Poor Tom. It is really unfortunate. That guy's still commenting. God bless him. Anyway. All right, let's wrap this up, y'all. We're going to go about our day. Hope y'all have an awesome Saturday. Please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. I do have, all right, Roll Tide 99 predictions for tomorrow's game. Yeah, man, I picked, no surprise, I went chalk. I mean, I think the Bills have a really good chance, but I just can't go against Patrick Mahomes at home in the playoffs. Like, until you beat him, why do you pick against him? So yeah, I'll go Chiefs at home and Eagles. I hate to say it, man. The Commanders beat the Eagles earlier this year. That was the game where Jalen Hurts got hurt at the beginning. I think Hurts had completed one pass before he got hurt and was out. So they beat Kenny Pickett. I just don't know that Washington's defense can be able to stop Saquon from running the ball. What could get interesting is if Washington gets a lead and Philly has to throw to play catch up. But then again, the reason Washington went and got a guy like Lattimore was for games like this. I think one of the first games Lattimore played was against Philly, and it was a game where A.J. Brown had 11 catches. Hang on, I'll tell you. It was here it was. 8 catches on 15 targets for 97 yards and a score. I mean, kind of own Lattimore. But so I don't know, man. I'll be pulling hard for Jaden. I really want to see him win it. But if you're being honest, man, really hard to go against Philly in that one. So 11 o'clock, man. Drew's still sleeping. Crazy. All right. Y'all have an awesome day. Hope you have a great day with family and all that good stuff. Take care of each other. God bless you, Tom. It's nice to meet you. Just keep coming back. You'll get it sooner or later. Maybe not. Probably not, actually. But thanks for all the comments, because it definitely helps boost our algorithm and everything like that. The comments are great because it helps the algorithm and everything. So appreciate you. All right, y'all have an awesome day. Peace. So I'm out of here. Locked on LSU. Check it out.